I didn't have a big breakdown. No collapse, no headlines. Just a quiet realization over coffee one morning that I was suffering. Not because I had to, but because I didn't know another way. For decades I lived a successful life, but it was eating me alive. This is a story about what happens when you stop pushing by default and start living by design. Not to impress anyone, just to feel human again. I worked in marketing for over 30 years. Mid-level executive, respectable career, decent income. On paper, I had done well. I could hold my own at a dinner party, talk numbers, talk trends. But when I got home, I'd sit in silence. No music, no movement. Just a kind of low static in my head. People said I had a good life, but I didn't feel it. I felt absent. Like I was watching someone else's story play out with my name on it. I kept waiting for something to change. A promotion, a vacation, a new project. But whatever I achieved, it never reached me. Like throwing pebbles into a well with no sound at the bottom. There wasn't a dramatic collapse. No ambulance, no rock bottom. It was slower than that. A dull fatigue that never left. I'd wake up already tired. Then came the small things. Tightness in my chest, knots in my stomach, tension behind my eyes. I thought it was just getting older, the body breaking down, as they say, but every test came back clean. "You're fine," they told me. But I wasn't. I knew it in my bones, or maybe just below them. Something was draining me, and I couldn't name it yet, which somehow made it worse. I just kept pushing through the days, hoping no one would notice how hollow I felt. I still did the job. Still hit deadlines, made presentations, led teams. I even joked around, kept it light. But none of it landed. I could feel myself performing. Smiling because it was expected. Listening without hearing. My kids would call a polite surface-level chats. But there was a gap I didn't know how to close. They weren't wrong to keep their distance. I had been physically present for years, but emotionally miles away. And now, when I wanted to show up for real, I didn't know how. I had no practice in being fully there. Just routines. Just roles. One night I was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling like it might give me an answer I hadn't laughed in weeks. No real laughter, the kind that starts in your chest. And it hit me. I didn't know what made me feel alive anymore. I couldn't remember what I used to enjoy or who I even was outside of work. I had built this whole identity around being useful, being capable. But the second I stopped, there was nothing left. That realization didn't come with fireworks, just silence. But that silence was louder than anything else I'd heard in years. My wife and I had separated a few years back. No drama. We signed the papers, wished each other well. We told friends it was mutual, and maybe it was. But looking back, I think she checked out long before the official ending. She was still there in body, but something had gone quiet between us. And I didn't notice, not really. I was so focused on keeping the machine running, I missed the signs. The disconnection. The absence of warmth. It wasn't the divorce that broke me. It was realizing how long I'd been living beside someone instead of with them, and how normal that had come to feel. I told myself this was just what getting older felt like. Slower mornings, more aches, less energy. I clung to that explanation because it meant I didn't have to change anything. But deep down, I knew. I wasn't tired of life. I was tired of this life. The meetings, the emails, the constant performance. I wasn't living, I was maintaining. Propping up an identity I no longer recognized. It wasn't aging that was draining me. It was the pace, the pressure, the emptiness disguised as productivity. I had confused burnout with biology. That realization came quietly, but it changed everything. It wasn't dramatic. Just a routine checkup that led to a follow-up, that led to a moment of silence in a doctor's office. Nothing serious, thankfully. But sitting there in that cold room, something broke open in me. I thought, if this is the beginning of the end, is this how I want to live out the rest of it? The question came like a whisper, but it landed like a weight. I couldn't shake it. All the years I'd spent chasing deadlines, solving problems, proving myself, and for what? I walked out of that office with a new kind of urgency. Not to do more, but to feel again. There was no big moment of collapse. No scandal, no shouting match, no public unraveling, just stillness. I'd come home from work, sit on the couch, and stare at nothing. Hours would pass like minutes. I wasn't miserable, just uninhabited. Like I'd slowly stepped out of my own life without realizing it. I tried the usual fixes. More coffee, a short trip, a new hobby. None of it touched the numbness. That's when I understood. This wasn't about stress. It was about meaning. And I had run out of it. Quietly, over years, until one day I looked up and didn't recognize the life I was in. That question started as a whisper. Then it settled in my chest like a stone. I'd done everything I was supposed to do. Career, marriage, kids, house. And still, this ache. This feeling that I had missed something essential along the way. At first, I thought I just needed a break. But breaks end. What I needed was something deeper, a redefinition. I remember sitting in the dark one evening, just breathing and realizing I can't keep pretending. If I keep going like this, I'll spend the next 20 years coasting toward a quiet regret. That was the moment I knew I had to step off the track. I didn't have a plan, just a feeling. A tired, insistent knowing that I couldn't keep doing life the way I had been. So I asked for a leave, told myself it was temporary. But the second I stepped away, I felt something loosen in my chest. I wasn't free yet, but I was finally unhooked. I spent those first weeks doing less than I thought possible. Sitting, walking, letting the silence in. Eventually I resigned. Not in a blaze of glory, just a quiet email and a long exhale. For the first time in decades, I didn't know what was next, and that uncertainty felt more alive than anything I'd done in years. I didn't buy a one-way ticket to Bali or sign up for a mindfulness retreat. I stayed put. I woke up, made coffee, and faced myself. I walked by the lake near my rental, sat in the woods, let my mind wander without dragging it back. I journaled in short sentences. No answers, just questions. I let parts of me dissolve. The achiever, the fixer, the man who always had a plan. I started swimming again. Slowly, like I was learning how to move through the world without forcing it. There was no epiphany, just space. And in that space, something softer started to return. Something human. Not for the scenery, though it's beautiful. I moved because I needed space, inside and out. I had an old friend up north who offered me a place to stay for a while. Just a small cabin near the woods. I remember packing my bags with this strange mix of relief and fear. There was no master plan. Just a quiet question in my chest that said, why not? It wasn't about escape, it was about letting something else in. I arrived in late spring. The air felt different, slower. I didn't know if I was running away or toward something, but I knew I had to find out. That was the moment it all became real. I listed the apartment, found a tenant, and handed over the keys. It wasn't a grand gesture, just a practical one, but it marked the shift. I wasn't just on pause anymore. I was choosing a different life. The rent gave me a bit of income, enough to hold me over. But more than that, it cut the cord. That city version of me, the schedule, the stress, the constant noise, was now behind a locked door I didn't need to open again. I remember sitting in that empty living room before I left. No furniture, just air and peace. At first, I was just trying to pass the time. I picked up a few books, listened to podcasts. But what stuck was personal finance. Not the flashy kind. The basics. How to live on less. How compounding works. How money can serve your life, not the other way around. It was humbling, honestly. I had spent decades earning and spending without really knowing what any of it meant. Now I was starting from scratch, notebook in hand, figuring out how to live with intention. It wasn't about becoming rich. It was about becoming clear. That clarity gave me something I hadn't felt in years. Agency. And it felt good. I sold things I didn't need, gave away clothes I hadn't worn in years, canceled subscriptions, cooked simple meals. The funny thing, I felt wealthier. Not in dollars, but in space, in time, in energy. I stopped needing the next thing. I wasn't filling my days with errands or my mind with wants. For once, I wasn't consuming. I was just being. When people say minimalism, I think they picture empty rooms. But for me, it meant fullness. I was finally living within my means, emotionally and financially. And in that smallness, I felt something big, enough. Some of my old colleagues thought I was having a breakdown. A few friends said I was wasting my potential. But there were others, quieter ones, who reached out and said, "I've been thinking about doing something like that." Not everyone gets it. Well, that's okay. Some people need motion to feel alive. I needed stillness. And no, I wasn't bored. I was just finally allowing myself to feel, to notice. The woods outside my window, the way the light moved through the trees, the calm that comes when you stop needing to prove anything. That's not boredom. That's arrival. The truth is, it was hard at first. The quiet didn't feel peaceful. It felt like a void. I had been so used to noise, email pings, meetings, commutes, small talk, that silence felt like something was wrong. I'd sit in the cabin and feel twitchy, like I should be doing something. But eventually the panic passed, and underneath it I found something I'd lost. Myself. My thoughts, unedited. My breath, steady. I started to listen, not to podcasts or music, but to whatever was left when the world stopped talking at me. And slowly I realized, this is what healing sounds like. I didn't want another full-time job. I just wanted to stay engaged, on my terms. So I started picking up small freelance projects here and there. Writing, consulting, the odd branding gig. No schedule, no grind. Just work I actually wanted to do. Some months I made more than others, and at first, like that uncertainty scared me. But then I noticed something. I was still okay. I had enough. More importantly, I had room. Room to breathe, to rest, to decide. I wasn't trying to scale anything. I was just learning how to trust myself again, and that was enough of a return. My days stopped being tasks and started becoming moments. A swim in the morning, coffee on the porch, reading something that made me think, a long walk through the trees. If I felt like working, I did. If I didn't, I didn't. I stopped measuring days in terms of output and started feeling them instead. Not everything was meaningful. Some days were just quiet. But the rhythm of that quiet changed me. It wasn't about getting ahead. It was about being here. And honestly, That was the first time in my life that I felt like I was actually living. There was one morning that stays with me. The lake was still, covered in a soft fog. I had a warm mug in my hands, and for once, nothing urgent waiting for me. No calls, no commute, just stillness. And I realized something simple. I felt okay. Not thrilled, not inspired, just calmly, quietly present. That might not sound like much, but for me, it was everything. For years, I'd been chasing meaning through momentum, but it turned out what I really needed was permission to stop. And in that moment, I gave it to myself. And I've been learning to live with that peace ever since. I won't pretend it was all smooth. There were days I sat there wondering if I'd made a mistake. Whether I was wasting my potential, being selfish, running away. Old voices came back. The ones that said success only counts if it's loud. But they didn't stay long. I'd go outside, hear the wind through the trees, and remember why I left. That doubt, it's part of it. But what stayed, what kept returning, was the peace. Not excitement. Not validation. Just this deep sense of enough. And once you feel that, really feel it, you can't unknow it. I live in a modest house near the woods. Not much, but more than enough. I wake up rested. I make breakfast slowly. I swim when the water's warm, and write when the words come. Some days I pick up a project. Some days I don't. There's no rush anymore, no ladder to climb. I'm not building towards something big. I'm living inside something small, but real. I used to think meaning came from effort. Now I think it comes from presence. There's a softness to my days that I never knew I needed. And now, I wouldn't trade it for anything. I'm not wealthy by most standards, but I've never felt more secure. My investments cover the basics: food, shelter, peace. Freelance work adds a little cushion. That's it. No empire, no passive income schemes. Just enough. And what I found is, the less I chase, the more I notice. How the air smells after rain. How much I enjoy cooking now. How often I laugh for no reason at all. I thought I had to earn a certain number to feel safe. Turns out, what I really needed was to stop spending my life in pursuit of more. Now I just live it. Enough became my new wealth. Enough time to rest without guilt. Enough energy to care, really care, about what I'm doing. Enough purpose that didn't require an audience or a quarterly goal. I didn't chase it. I just slowed down enough to notice it. Most of my life, I thought I was trying to be successful. But really, I was just trying to feel safe. Now, I wake up and I don't dread the day. I don't feel behind. I don't feel numb. And that quiet sense of enough. It doesn't look like much on paper, but it feels like the richest thing I've ever known. Not because I'm chasing relevance or trying to impress anyone, but because I have space to show up. Really show up. I help a neighbor fix a broken fence. I read to kids at the library some afternoons. I take calls from friends who just need someone to listen without hurrying them along. None of it ends up on a resume, but it's honest. And in a strange way, I feel more valuable now than I ever did in the boardroom. Not because of what I produce, but because I'm finally offering something whole. My time, my attention, my actual self. They didn't say anything at first. They just stayed a little longer when they visited. One day my daughter said, "You're softer now." And I knew exactly what she meant. I don't lecture anymore. I don't try to optimize their lives like I used to. I'm just here. I ask better questions. I listen more than I talk. I let them be who they are. And I think that's been the most healing thing. Not for them, but for me. Just being a dad again. Not a provider. Not a fixer. Just someone who loves them calmly and completely. people ask if I've quit working, I tell them, no, I've quit suffering. I still create, I still get curious. I still build things. Just not out of fear anymore. I take on projects when they excite me. I say no when they don't. I've stepped off the treadmill, but I haven't stopped moving. It's just a different kind of motion now, one that comes from within. I didn't retire early. I realigned my life around what actually matters to me. And it turns out that's not a radical move. It's just sane. There are still days I miss the noise, the validation, the rush. I still get lonely sometimes, especially in the winter. And I still carry some regret for the years I spent proving things to people who were never really watching. But I'm no longer lost in it. I know where I am now, and more importantly, I know who I am. That doesn't erase the past, but it softens it. And the future, I don't need a 5-year plan. I just need tomorrow to feel like mine. You don't have to sell everything and move to the woods. You don't need a dramatic exit. Just pause long enough to ask yourself, is this mine? This schedule, this story, this life? And if it's not, make one better choice. Not all at once, just one. Then another, and over time, you'll start to feel something shift. Not flashy. Not overnight, but real. You'll feel a kind of quiet power coming back into your life. And that's when you'll know you didn't escape. You returned. I used to hustle to survive. Now I live to feel. Before you go, if something in the story made you pause or exhale or see your own life a little more clearly, I hope you'll subscribe. It helps this kind of quiet story reach others who might need it. You can like the video if it spoke to you, and I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Have you ever felt like you were living out of habit instead of choice? What would enough look like for you if no one else was watching? And if this resonated, you might also want to watch Peter's story. Another man who left the noise behind and found something quieter and better.